Wherever I travel around the globe, I have access to Flashpoint Radio, and so should you. Flashpoint Radio in a class all by itself.
I want to say good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Grand Cayman. Good morning to the rest of the world. I want to say good morning to my friends across the US of A this morning. All VIPs, wherever you are in Canada. I want to say good morning to my friend Hugh. Yeah, not you. It's, the first time I heard that word, that name, I was like, we always call him you. Yeah. Anyways, this morning I want to say it's Wellness Wednesday with a difference, a twist. And so there much into this morning's experience. But I want to greet you first and let you know that if you have not yet liked, share, or subscribe to Flashpoint Media, then go ahead and do so right now. Of course, our web radio continues to play 24 hours on www.flashpointmedia.ky. Remember, if you hit the notification bell, every time one of these programs comes up, you will get it first. So go right on ahead and hit that notification bell so you can always be in the now. Of course, this morning's experience is brought to you by M&M Construction for all your construction needs, and Aside Ultrasound for all your ultrasound needs right here in the Grand Cayman Islands. Of course, our Wellness Wednesday begins with a difference, and of course, our doctor is in the house, and we'll be talking a little bit more about our health and how to take better care of ourselves. But of course, we go for a break, and of course, when we come back,
listening to Flashpoint Radio, Rise and Shine, your morning boost of inspiration, news and fun, with Mikey G, Lady Elise, and Coraleekaen, the unmistakable combination, synergized to navigate.
Looking to build your dream home or renovate your space? M&M Construction is the perfect place. We bring your vision to life with precision and quality craftsmanship. From design to construction, we guide you every step, ensuring seamless coordination and superior results. Our professional roof inspection and maintenance services will ensure that your roof is sturdy this hurricane season. So, if you are ready to start your construction journey, call us today at 345-927-7509. Build with confidence. Build with M&M Construction. 345-927-7509.
Of course, build with M&M Construction for all your construction needs right here in the Grand Cayman Islands. Of course, before we get into our discussion with our doctor this morning, of course, our devotional is brought to us by M&M Construction, of course, by the lady Susan Long, every single morning right here on Flashpoint.
Good morning. This is day 22. Reject profane and old wives' fables and exercise yourself toward godliness. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. Keep the goal in view. Written by Herb Vander Lugt. Bible scholar William Barclay tells of his walks through the meadow with his bull terrier, Rusty. Whenever his dog came to a shallow creek, he jumped in and started removing stones one by one, dropping them haphazardly on the shore. This pointless activity would go on for hours. Bartley says that Rusty's strange behavior reminds him of some self-proclaimed experts on the Bible. They expend enormous energy and countless hours trying to interpret obscure passages, but all their effort does nothing to edify themselves or others. Through the years, I have received long letters from people speaking about their claim to have found the key to certain Bible mysteries by studying the meaning of names in the lists of genealogies. Apparently, there were some teachers in Ephesus who were trying to impress the believers by weaving myths and fables into their interpretation of the Bible. But what they taught did nothing to promote godliness. It was therefore as pointless as Rusty's stone removal project. Paul said to Timothy, "Exercise yourself toward godliness." That's the most important goal to keep in view as we study the Bible. Our prayer should be that God will grant us grace to read and mark His holy word, so that its truths with meekness we will receive and live by its holy precepts. Our quote this morning reads, "Don't study the Bible to be able to quote it. Study it to obey it." End quote.
Cayman, are you ready? Flashpoint Media proudly presents Cayman's Got Talent, the ultimate showcase of our island's best voices, performers, and rising stars. From breathtaking vocals to inspiring performances, these local talents will leave you amazed. And it all builds up to the grand finale, the Point of Praise Gospel Extravaganza, on Saturday, October 25, 2025. It's a night of powerful worship, soul-stirring music, and community spirit, with part proceeds going to loud, silent causes, supporting caregivers and families of individuals living with mental health challenges right here in the Cayman Islands. Cayman's Got Talent, more than just a competition, it's a celebration of faith, hope, and the incredible gifts within our community. Your calendars, invite your friends, and be part of the movement. For more details, follow Flashpoint Media on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and tune in at www.flashpointmedia.ky. Flashpoint Talent meets purpose.
Need help to produce your podcast? Flashpoint Media makes it very easy. We can relieve you of the headache by recording your podcast for you. So, take the first step to getting your content to your desired audience. Contact us here at Flashpoint and your podcast will be live in no time. Our website is www.flashpointmedia.ky or call us at 345-321-6969. That's 345-321-6969.
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or if you're tuned in via our web radio, we certainly want to welcome you this morning. It is a wonderful day to be alive. A lot of things have been happening, a lot of exciting things, and a lot of not so exciting things. But regardless of it, it's all a part of life's journey. Good morning, Mikey G.
I want to say also a pleasant good morning to our listeners, Lady Elise. I want to say good morning to you as well. Good morning, Lady Elise. And of course, all our listening and our viewing viewers this morning. I want to say it's already Wednesday. It's Wellness Wednesday, another beautiful day in the Grand Cayman Islands. And of course, Dr. K is lined up to give us some insight on our health and how we can best take care of it today. Of course, when we come back, we will definitely be joining Dr. K and find out more about our health. Of course, I want to say welcome back everyone. Of course, Dr. K, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mikey G. Good morning, Lady Elise. How are you this morning?
Welcome, Dr. K. As usual, I like to spend the time to introduce you every time I get a chance because we have listeners who are ever growing new listeners and they want to know a little bit more about our physician. Now, Dr. K, as she's affectionately called by us at Flashpoint, is our resident, we want to say, our resident physician. And she has many years of experience in taking care of persons, regardless of their age. She has a passion for medicine, and of course, she has a passion for health and well-being. So she has been faithful to the cause. She has been sharing with us each week very important information to make us healthy, wise, and strong. Welcome, Dr. K. We are happy that you have chosen to join us today.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Lady Elise. Thank you so much for that. You know, it's a good day to be alive, and every day is a good day. We need to say thank you to God because there's so many things that can happen to us. And I always say that death is the easy way out, but it's when we're sick and we have to manage all the complications and all the problems that come with being ill and the expense, not to mention the expense. So today we're going to be talking about pulmonary embolism. I promised that we were going to talk about some STDs and stuff, but we'll do that later. And also our parasites, we're not going to leave that out. But today we're going to be talking about pulmonary embolism. It's a big word, pulmonary meaning lung, embolism meaning that there's a clot that was formed somewhere else that has moved to the lung. And that's what pulmonary embolism. So it's a clot that is formed in another location that has moved to the lung. So it's usually formed in the legs, and we call that a deep vein thrombosis, DVT. And lots of persons who after long trips, probably they were flying from Dubai or from South Africa or from Kenya or from the UK, wherever, and they were flying to the Caribbean, which is a pretty long flight, and you end up with a swelling in your leg or even some shortness of breath, difficulty breathing or coughing, and you go to your doctor and say, you know what happened, I'm having shortness of breath, I feel like I can't breathe, or I'm having this swelling and pain in my leg, and your doctor will say, well, did you have any long periods of immobilization? Were you on a plane recently? And your doctor would want to check for DVT. So basically what it is that you have a clot there, and the clot is formed in the leg. What causes the clot to form? And let's talk about what causes the clot to form. There are many things that causes the clot to form, and we're going to put them in 3 categories. So I'm going to put it in the category of immobilization. So when you have periods of prolonged immobilization, you're more likely to get a clot. Think about it. If you put blood and the blood is not moving, it's going to clot. So once it stays in one place, it's going to clot, and that's just a natural progression of it. So if you were, say, immobilized for a long period, say, for example, as I said, you were on a plane and sitting down for how many hours and not getting up, not even to use bathroom, then you're at risk for getting a clot in the leg. And if you say you had surgery and you're in bed for a long time, you're at risk for getting clots. And that is why, some people or some patients always say the nurses are not nice or the doctors are not nice because they just had surgery and they want them to walk the next day. And we're always saying, I don't want to move, I want to stay in bed. But a lot of times you have compression stockings on, but your healthcare provider will say, you need to walk, you need to move. And the reason why you need to move is that we do not want you to get a deep vein thrombosis. Even with having compression stockings on, we advise that you actually move as soon as you're able to. So that is it. So we said any prolonged periods of immobilization. Another thing that causes blood to pool in the legs too is pregnancy. What happens is that in pregnancy is two risk factors. Pregnancy is that you have this gravid uterus that presses down on the blood vessel. So blood is pooled in the legs, and I'm sure pregnant women. A lot of pregnant women tend to have some swelling of the legs, some form of another. Whether it is significant that your doctor will do something about it or it's mild, but there's definitely pooling because of the gravid abdomen. There's pooling of blood in the lower abdomen. So the pregnancy alone itself will cause that. Not to mention the pregnancy causes a relatively hypercoagulable state, meaning that it puts your blood at risk for clotting just because of having that pregnancy going on. So there are two factors that will lead to a blood clot in pregnancy, and if there's a clot in the lower limb, then that clot can move up to the lungs and can actually cause problems. The other thing is that another thing that causes it again, and this occurs with women who have, like say, uterine fibroids, because you have those big fibroids in your abdomen, that big distended uterus again causes pressure in the lower veins, and then as a result of that, you have problems with blood coming back up. And as a result of that, there's pooling of the blood, and you can get a DVT and a pulmonary embolism. The other thing that happens in women is taking oral contraceptive pills or hormone pills. What this thing does, it makes your blood increase coagulation, so you call it a hypercoagulable state. A relatively hypercoagulable state, which puts you at risk for getting blood clots. Okay? So the other things that happen, that some of the other reasons, if you damage your blood vessels in any way, for example, when you have surgery, you can get a pulmonary embolism, and that is from a clot. Or if you are a smoker, that's a relatively risk factor. People greater than age, older than 65 years old, that's another risk factor. If you are obese, your BMI is high, that's another risk factor. So there are so many risk factors for getting a pulmonary embolism. And then you have the other risk factor, which is your genetics. Some people are born with hypercoagulable states. Genetically, they are born with factors that put them at risk for getting a clot. So everybody who gets a clot will be checked for these risk factors. So there's protein S, protein C deficiency, there's factor Leiden, and there's also lupus and other conditions that put you at risk for getting a pulmonary embolism. So these are genetic factors that you can do nothing about that puts you at risk for getting a DVT and also a pulmonary embolism. I should bear in mind that a pulmonary embolism can be in the form not only of a clot, but you can have things like air. So, and you can have things like amniotic fluid. So you can have the amniotic fluid, that is, the mother giving birth to the baby, and the fluid goes into the blood vessel and go into the lung and causes that kind of blockage to the lung and can be fatal.
Here's a question for you, Doc. And I just talk about the child, but I want to take you back to the not moving too much, where you sit on an aircraft for a lengthy period of time and you develop a clot because of this. Could this also occur if you work in a job that causes you to sit down for a good 8 hours per day or more?
Well, yes, any periods of immobilization, long periods of immobilization, puts you at risk for a clot, yes. So sitting down for long periods, not just in an aircraft, but even taking road trips, long trips, where you're basically not moving along. And most times sitting down, even though you have a sedentary lifestyle, your risk for getting clots, unless you have the risk factor, should not be a great, because you do move. You do elevate your legs, you do move. It's not like you're sitting down and not doing anything. I think what the point is that yes, any long period of immobilization will put you definitely at risk for getting a pulmonary embolus.
Because when I listened to the conversation a while ago, I am thinking that work, by just working, manual labor, may be what you call a solution for not easily getting this. Like for construction, I just want to use that as one of those up the ladder, down the ladder kind of thing that you're always constantly moving. Even farming, but manual labor seems to be a healthy way of living, or would probably bring less risk to this. Now, if this is so, or do people with active lives like these manual persons who do manual labor, do they have the same level of risk factor to them as persons who do not move as much? I'm just looking at the the work ethics now in terms of work, not necessarily traveling, but now working.
So people who are very active have a different, yes, they have a different risk. Their risk is not, at least not for pulmonary embolus, unless they're genetically predisposed to getting it.
Okay.
So if it is environmental, where they wouldn't have had an injury, they wouldn't have periods of prolonged immobilization, yes, then their risk would not be that. But then they have risk for other things. They have risk for rhabdomyolysis. So there's one thing and there's another thing depending on how you manage that prolonged labor. If you're not hydrating properly, then you can get renal stones and calculi. So, there are other things that can happen with you depending on your environment and what you do with the environment that you're in. So we want to say that pulmonary embolism is basically one of those conditions. It's a third leading cause of death behind heart attack and strokes. So it's significant because about 33% of persons who get a pulmonary embolism will die. And that's significant. 1/3 of persons who get a pulmonary embolism die. And that is because sometimes the symptoms are not exactly catastrophic. So what are the symptoms of pulmonary embolism? So you can
Dr. K, before you actually go to the symptom, in recent years, I have noticed that there are definitely more cases of pulmonary embolism, right? And I notice a lot of young persons are being diagnosed with pulmonary embolism.
More now than before.
I noticed within the last few years is COVID, and persons being more at risk for development of clots. COVID, whether they have the vaccine versus, and I don't know if you recall, I don't know which one of the vaccines, I don't recall, but there was
JJ, it was Johnson & Johnson.
Yes, and I think there was some recall because there were clients who having
increased rates of clots.
Yes, were more at risk for clots. Now, it's almost as if you can't escape. Whether you ended up with the virus or you had the vaccine, you were at increased risk for the development of thrombus. And it certainly seemed to be something that is more common. I don't know if it's more common or it's just that we are more efficient in our diagnosis of these conditions.
And it's probably both because COVID puts you at risk for it, at relative risk for a hypercoagulable state.
Yeah.
And the other things that put you at risk and which we never mention is like persons with cancers. Persons with cancers have a hyper coagulable state. And also, it's important that people who wear tight clothing are at risk because of the stasis of blood. The blood doesn't get to move
Mm-hmm.
around the body, and so as a result of that, you're at risk for getting a pulmonary embolus. So yes, absolutely, Lady Elise. When we talked about COVID, in two ways, you get that lung damage, and you also get that from the vaccine itself. And that was something that was happening with the vaccine and also from the disease itself.
Yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
So yes,
I mean,
that is true.
Also, oral contraceptive use. There are persons who are at higher risk from taking the oral contraceptive, correct? Dr. King?
Yeah, because the oral contraceptive give them a relatively hypercoagulable state. And that's why when I mentioned in the women, when they're taking oral contraceptive pills, they're at risk. When they're pregnant, they're at risk for two reasons: the hypercoagulable state and also the gravid uterus, which causes the stasis of blood.
here's one for you today. This morning, that people love to play video games. I will realize that more video games are being played, and I'm just listening to the entire conversation. And so these questions are popping up in my mind, and so I am now associating sitting down for long periods of time, not just by people who are working, which are really productive persons who are trying to meaningfully achieve success through some means, but you have persons who also are playing video games. No, video games are not necessarily persons who are non-productive. I will not assume to say this because a lot of these video games are actually simulations for other things to come. But however, video games is a rise on the, or is up on our rise at this point, and many of our youngsters who are in school are inclined to have more video games more than go out in the open field and play some football, some cricket, some rugby, whatever it is, some real sport. But video games has been the sporting arena for a very long time. Do you say that this is also a main contributor to this embolism happening to
Well, it
younger
can, but
persons?
hopefully people who play sports are not, who do video games are not just sitting down and using their hands. I hope they're using their feet to move too and jumping around and doing stuff. Yes, if you just sit around all day and lounge around all day with your hands, you're at risk because you're immobilized. But hopefully you're moving around and jumping up and down when you're playing video games. I don't know. I watch my kids and they're constantly moving, and I don't know when they're playing video games, they're jumping around too. They're not just sitting down and moving their hands. They're getting all excited. They're moving they're moving their body. They're moving their legs. They're moving everywhere. So but if you just sit and just move your hands and do nothing else, of course, that period of prolonged immobilization puts you at risk, especially if you have risk factors.
All right.
Yes. So we were talking about this. Maybe at least you were saying that you're wondering if it's because it's more common or because we are more good at it, and possibly we are more good at diagnosing pulmonary embolus. I've had cases of saddle embolus, which is a big embolus, and it's saddle. We call it a saddle embolus because it's like the saddle on a horse. It's on both sides of the pulmonary artery. It sits over it, and as a result of that, that definitely is a killer because think about it, you're blocking the airflow to the lungs itself, and there are people who have survived because of treatment of this disease. So yes, treatment diagnosis is both have been very efficient now in terms of management of patients with pulmonary embolism. But before we go on to the management, let's talk about what are the symptoms.
Yes.
So the most common symptom, or usually the first symptom, is some shortness of breath. So, and this is vague because shortness of breath could be, am I having heart failure? Because people with heart failure are at risk for getting pulmonary embolus too. So, am I having a heart attack? Shortness of breath, chest pain, are you asthmatic? Are you having stuff? Pregnant women tend to always get short of breath. So, is it worse than shortness of breath? You're wondering if it's just because I'm pregnant or whatever and I'm getting the short of breath. But the first symptoms is really shortness of breath and chest pains. And if anybody's having these symptoms, once you have sudden onset of shortness of breath and chest pain, you must see a physician. We're not saying it's going to be pulmonary embolism because it could be a heart attack, but that's a serious condition. And once you're having sudden onset, person must. It's a medical emergency and must get tested. There are other things that can cause shortness of breath and chest pain, but until it is ruled out, then you need to seek medical attention. The other things that you can have is that you can get wheezing, or the person can be coughing, and you can cough. You don't have to cough up blood, but coughing up blood is one of the symptoms of pulmonary embolism. So we said shortness of breath, we said chest pain, we said cough with or without blood. You can have wheezing, or you can have excessive sweating, or you feel your heart racing. Okay, a lot of times the person feels lightheaded and they feel as if they're about to pass out. And if you're feeling any one of these symptoms, anybody, it's a medical emergency, you need to seek medical attention immediately. Okay. Some people have the symptoms going on for a little while, especially when they have a deep vein thrombosis, a clot in the leg. They can have that clot there for a little while before it actually becomes life-threatening. So yes, it can move quickly, or sometimes it takes a while to move. But pulmonary embolism is something that's serious and we need to be aware. So if we're not necessarily ones who are going to be having symptoms, it might be somebody we know and we can point them in the right direction. Okay, so once you have a risk factor, once you have one of those risk factors, then you need to always be aware. And the thing about pulmonary embolism is for you to prevent it if you can. I always say try to prevent the things that you can. So if you know that you are overweight, then try to lose weight. Try to exercise at least 30 minutes per day. Move, never stop moving, you've gotta move. And that's the problem with a lot of people. We live in a world where we're sitting down and not doing much because there's so many jobs that are sedentary. There's so many ways for us to not move, but we need to move. We need to make sure that we move. Always in activity for a long time, as I say, will put you at risk for pulmonary embolism. And if you're a smoker, that's that's a risk factor. If you have diabetes, that's a risk factor. If you have cancer, you can't do anything about that, but at least you can change your other factors. You can move, you can eat healthily, you can exercise as much as possible. Okay, so the thing about it is that we want to make sure that we live a healthy life. Because as I say, it's not just the symptoms of a heart attack, because a pulmonary embolism, because a pulmonary embolism puts strain on your heart. So it can actually cause long-term damage to the heart. And that is what we're trying to avoid. And not to mention, the clot is not going to go away immediately. Even with taking and thrombolytic therapy, where you're going to be on a blood thinner, and that is a treatment for it, a blood thinner. If it gets really, really bad, or the clots are big, and you're having horrible symptoms, then your doctor might want to do thrombolytic therapy, where they actually go in and try to break up the clot. And then there are times they want to go in and remove the embolus, or remove the clot, go in and take out the clot, because it's such a significant problem. And then there are people who are constantly throwing emboli, constantly throwing these blood clots. and they might want to have a filter. So they put a filter in the legs to prevent the clots from traveling all the way up into the lungs. And sometimes these clots are there. It takes a while, it takes months to years for these clots to actually go away. So when the clots are there, they're actually giving you a blood thinners to try to organize the clots. But the clot is still there. The clot hasn't gone anywhere. The clot is still in the leg. And it takes a while for the body to actually reabsorb it and break it down so you do not have a clot anymore. So yes, I mean, the prevention is always better than, they say 1 ounce of prevention. That's what is the statement. 1 ounce of prevention is better than something of cure. You've never heard that before? I don't know how many cure, a pound of cure, I don't know what it is. But it's better always to prevent diseases from happening than trying to cure them in the end. Because it's not just a cure, remember, it's a lot. It's a lot for us to do. There are some things that we cannot change, and I will always say, the things that we cannot change, we can't do anything about them.
No.
But what about the things that we can change? We can change our lifestyle, we can change our immobilization, we can change our weight, we can change the way we eat, we can change our smoking habits, we can change our exercise, we can change all of that, and we can do all of that in order to stay healthy. And we always come back to the same principles every day. Drink your water, exercise, eat properly. It's the same thing every day. Do not smoke, do not drink alcohol. It's always the same principle, fundamental principles of health. And doesn't matter what body entity we go through, it always comes back to the same thing. But as I say, there's things that you can do. There's some people who have pooling of blood in the legs, for example. They have they're at risk, and they can wear these compression stockings that can help. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are treated and we stay healthy. Can't emphasize that more. Health, health, health.
Well, Doc, as you mentioned health and how many times over, how important it is for us to do the exercise program, get fresh air all the time. Of course, if you are living in an air-conditioned house, please open your windows at least once per week to let fresh air circulate in the house, that kind of thing. I'm thinking about that as you
And I
said
would
that.
hope even if you live in an air-conditioned environment, you don't spend 24 hours in the house. You go outside. You take a walk on the outside. You get some fresh air on the outside. You exercise. I don't think, yes, and the sad thing about it, a lot of people stay home, work from home. And they do work from home and they exercise in home and they do not see the light of day. But they need to go outside. They need to get some vitamin D. They need to get some sunlight. They need to get some air that's different from their house. They need to interact with nature, and that's therapeutic. It's significant for them to do that. So those persons who are working at home, I know people who are working at home, and they every chance they get, they go outside, they go shopping wherever they go walking up and down at the mall, and that's another thing that they can do too. So you're sitting down and working every day, but as soon as work is over, you get some friends and you're scootling out, even if you're window shopping. You're going to the groceries, you're going to the mall, you're walking up and down, you're actually interacting with nature in order to improve your health. Get your valid exercise in. If you're not going to the gym, or you're just going walking around the neighborhood, or playing some pickleball or tennis or badminton, something. But as I say, yes, we will always have to ensure that we actually take care of ourselves. And pulmonary embolism is not something that we used to talk about this a few years ago, but it's not something that we've been talking about in recent time. And I suppose because the emergency of it have decreased, because initially when there was a lot of persons because of COVID, it was a lot talked about. But notwithstanding that, it might be not from COVID, but there are other factors that can put somebody at risk for pulmonary embolus. I've seen a lot of persons who have died from pulmonary embolus, amniotic embolus. You can have ear causing an embolus.
Yeah, which means they care. How does one get embolus?
Okay, so air can cause an embolus. And for example, those people who do deep sea diving, the divers can get an air embolus. So what happens is that because they're actually using, um, I think it's Bohr's law, where you have the nitrogen, which is a little bit more less dense than oxygen. So it places the oxygen in the blood and form this air bubble, which actually goes to the lung and actually causes a pulmonary embolus. It can go to the brain too and can cause cerebral infarction.
Wow.
But the more thing that it does, it goes to the lung because it goes into the bloodstream. So because what you're doing when you're diving, you're increasing the pressure in the blood vessels and in the airways. So you have the nitrogen being coming out and being exchanged for the oxygen. And as a result of that, you're forming an embolus with an ear. And it seeps into the blood, into the blood vessel itself. And it travels along like a clot. And you go to the lung and actually cause blockage in the lung. And it can be fatal. So there are people who die from an ear embolus.
Wow.
And you can get a fat embolus too. So, for example, those persons who have like long bone of surgery, long bone fractures, the fat can come out of the blood, the bone itself, go into the blood vessel and travel to the heart and cause a blockage just like a clot. So you have the clot that can form an embolus, you have blood can form an embolus, fat can form an embolus, ear can form an embolus, and amniotic fluid can form an embolus.
This is
So
what
there's
you.
different things that can actually form an embolus. We talk more about blood because that's the commonest cause, but yes, a lot of other things can cause. So especially those you've heard of bends. Those the common thing that you get is the bends where they get the pain in the joints, especially those persons who are diving without the proper equipment, the diving equipment, those fishermen who will go all the way down into the ocean to spear fish and to do other things, or some people who do it recreationally will go all the way down without proper equipment, or sometimes the equipment is faulty and it puts them at risk for getting an ear embolus. And this can be fatal if not treated.
Well
So
done.
yes,
Telling you.
there's so many things that can cause an embolus. It's amazing. As I was only focusing on clots, yeah, but you can have so many other things that can cause an embolus. And even though it's a different cause or the pathophysiology is different in terms of what is causing it, the end result is the same. The end result is the same when you're having decreased oxygenation to the lungs, and as a result of that, it can be fatal if not treated.
Sounds like
That's why when you go to your doctor, they ask you that they take a history because they need to know what are the possible causes of what's happening to you.
Doc, when you speak a while ago, it just sounds as if our bodies are just waiting to attack us at any point, if not treated right.
And it's not like they're not, it's our bodies attacking us, it's what we're doing to our bodies.
Yeah, when we don't treat ourselves right, you know?
We're the ones who are not treating ourselves right.
Yes.
Because our blood is not going to clot. Our blood is always in motion, it's always flowing. God made it to always move, so it's not like it's never ever going to move. We're the ones who stop it from moving. We're the ones who do the things
the unhealthy things.
Who cause it. When it's going to be surgery, it's somebody who caused it to have to cut those vessels in order for it to clot. If you're going to break your bones, I'm not saying that you are the one who caused yourself to fall, but it's because of an accident or an injury why that is happening. And yes, we don't do anything when it comes on to an amniotic embolus because we don't. Pregnancy is a physiological or pathological, whichever one they call it. It's a physiological entity. I suppose some people may think it's pathological, but it's physiological entity where you're producing a life. But we still think that that can cause an issue. But yes, everything is made in its perfect environment and its perfect sphere, and it's what we do with what God gives us that makes a difference. So yes, our bodies are not really attacking us, so we're just not taking care of our bodies.
Yeah, yeah. Very important to maintain that delicate balance.
And it is delicate, as you say, very delicate.
Well, all right. I want to say, Dr. K, this morning, I'm just right now just considering so many different exercises that I must do, including don't stop walking. You know, to ensure that I don't create any embolism in my system, and of course, allow me to have a healthier life. One of many things that I must do to prevent or try to prevent from happening, so I can have a not just a longer life, but a healthier, longer life. I want to say thank you, Dr. K, for coming on this morning and informing us in such an able way. Lady Elise, I know you're bursting with
Thank you, Dr. K. We have certainly learned a lot. And just before we head out, if someone has been diagnosed with a pulmonary embolism, does that put them at risk for developing more, or is there a long-term treatment that they would need to be on, or what usually is the course of action after being diagnosed once?
So if you have a pulmonary embolism, say for example you have a we know the cause of the pulmonary embolism, then you might be on anticoagulant blood thinners. Let's put it that way. You might be on blood thinners for 6 to 12 months, depending on what's happening there. But there are persons who are at risk for throwing, but continually forming these clots, and they might, and especially, I mean, as I say, the clot is not forming the lung. It's usually forming the lower limbs. So if they're at risk for forming these clots, then they're going to put a filter in.
Okay.
The filter is going to prevent the clots from moving to the lung. So they're going to continue to form the clot. And there are some people who might be on lifelong blood thinners. And the blood thinners again has its other, blood thinners have their other issues where you're at risk for bleeding and other things that's happening to you. And you have to be, especially, a lot of those persons are on warfarin, and there it has a very narrow therapeutic range. So if you're under, then you're not anticoagulating, you're not coagulating enough. That means you're at risk for throwing clots. And if you're just a little bit over, then you're at risk for bleeding. So you have to constantly be checked to make sure that you're in the therapeutic range. So that's another thing. So you want to make sure you're between 2 and 3. You don't want to be 1, you don't want to be 5. And you always say, you can't brush your teeth too hard, you're checking for bleed in the gums, blood in the urine, any problems with your upper the gastrointestinal tract, because you're at risk for bleeding. So there's so many other things that happen because of the treatment itself. But once you have been diagnosed with a clot, depending on what the cause is, your doctor might put you on bleeding blood thinners for probably 6 to 12 months. They might evaluate you and stop after 12 months, but it all depends on the cause of your clots, or the cause of the clot formation. You might be on lifelong or you might need filters to prevent those clots from going up into the lungs. So there are a number of things that can happen, and so it's individualized. There's no one shoe fits all. It all depends on what's happening with the person, and the doctor will decide what is the best course of treatment for that person.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. K. A wealth of information this morning. Your health, just reminding us, our health is our wealth. Let us take utmost care of our health, and let us be supportive of each other on this health journey. So if you know someone who might be struggling with even exercise, you might want to walk with them, you might want to motivate them. Let's keep it moving. If you are sitting down at your job all day and you need to take a walk around, please make the effort to do so that you can preserve your health and well-being. Thank you so much, Dr. K. I have learned, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers have also learned.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good day now.
Of course, for those who are joining us on www.flashpointmedia.ky and our radio, our web radio continues, please give us a like and share the link right here on our YouTube channel or Facebook page, and of course hit the like button so that someone, whenever one of these programs comes up, you get it first. Alright, much more to come when we come back. Thank you, Dr. K.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4, Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
Welcome back. Wow. What a wealth of information that we received.
Welcome back, everyone.
So much information this morning about our health and how we can best take care of it.
A lot of information being shared with us this morning, and of course we express all gratitude and appreciation to Dr. K for joining us every single Wednesday and being focused on helping us to stay well and healthy. Now, August seems to be that month that there are a lot of celebrants. You would have seen we celebrated College E last week, and of course over the weekend, Sister Mama Marva, happy birthday to you from us right here. And yesterday, yesterday, Tuesday the 26th, Kalinja Rodriguez, Madame Blair, we wish you happy birthday to you as well. But of course, this morning we don't want you to miss out on all the happenings. So of course, Coraleekaen stands ready with our news. And we are also aware that the National Hurricane Center is tracking several systems out there. So make sure you stay connected with Flashpoint as we will share these updates throughout the day. If you visit us on www.flashpointmedia.ky, we are keeping our eyes and our ears quite alert so we know what's happening on the ground. So thank you. Over to you, Mikey G. And
of course, I'm celebrating the birthday. Alright, Sister Mama, big up yourself. Alright, that's what I said to her, Miss Mama, just keep it simple, alright? Kalinja Rodriguez, pronounce that for me. Rodrigo? I'm missing the name, come on. Help me with that.
Kalinja
Rodriguez. I got it the second time. Alright, fine. So I'm going to say happy birthday to you and of course Sister Marva this morning. Alright, so of course, news time. Of course, Lady Coraleekaen is of course awaiting us with the news, and of course when we come back, the news is brought to us by Asai Ultrasound for all your ultrasound needs right here in the Grand Cayman Islands.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4 Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
Breakfast on New York and Coraleekaen, and here are two top stories, both local and international. National Gallery exhibition frames Caymanian identity through symbols. The National Gallery of the Cayman Islands is showcasing a landmark exhibition titled A Story in Symbols. Curated by Arabella Stocker, the exhibition explores how cultural icons from the Cayman parrot to the silver-thatched palm shape Cayman's identity. Featured works include Horatio Esteban's Caymanite Catboat, Larissa Saved Lady with the Thatched Robe, and collaborative pieces by Mark Lorison and Ronald Foots Rains. Running until September 3rd, the exhibition invites visitors to reflect on Cayman's living story through art, sculpture, and symbolism. Public transport upgrade begins with new bus route maps. The Ministry of Planning and the Public Transport Unit have installed easy-to-read bus maps at 25 stops across Grand Cayman. The maps aim to make travel simpler for commuters and tourists while promoting public transport as a reliable and affordable option. Minister J. Evans says this is a first step toward a modern system with future upgrades expected, including live bus tracking and cashless payments. Free HPV vaccination drive targets cancer prevention. The annual HPV vaccination drive returns this September and October for children and young adults aged 9 to 25. The free Gardasil 9 vaccine helps protect against cervical, oral, and throat cancers. Health Minister Kathleen Evans-Wilkes is encouraging families to take advantage of this preventative measure. Vaccines will be available in schools, public health clinics, and private clinics across the island. Record loggerhead turtle nest numbers reported. Cayman has recorded its highest ever number of loggerhead turtle nests this season. As of August 1st, more than 390 nests have been found across the islands, with Little Cayman and Cayman Brac seeing record highs. Department of Environment Deputy Director Tim Austin called it a very successful season, crediting the tireless work of volunteers who help protect the nests and guide hatchlings safely to the sea. JN Money expands to 10 new markets. JN Money has extended its remittance services into 10 new countries, including the Philippines, India, Honduras, and Nepal, reflecting Cayman's diverse migrant population. General Manager Horace Hines says the company's expansion ensures better access for the more than 138 nationalities working in Cayman, as remittances last year exceeded US 310 million, nearly 5% of GDP. Now to regional and international headlines. OAS urges cooperation in the Americas. The OAS Secretary General is calling for stronger international collaboration to promote peace and stability with special focus on Haiti's security challenges. IMF reaffirms Chile's economic strength. The IMF has completed its midterm review of Chile's flexible credit line, praising the country's strong fundamentals while keeping the arrangement precautionary amid global uncertainty. Belize launches Soil Doctor Program. A new FAO-backed initiative in Belize aims to train community soil doctors to improve land management and climate resilience. In St. Lucia, smoke from the fire at the Fall Fort landfill has triggered health warnings, especially for residents with asthma, COPD, or other respiratory issues. CARICOM and rights of older persons. 3 CARICOM countries have ratified the Inter-America Convention on the Protection of Older Persons as regional bodies call for stronger oversight of care facilities. Finally, rising tensions in the Caribbean. Venezuela has deployed warships and drones after the U.S. sent naval destroyers to the region, escalating tensions over alleged drug trafficking. Meanwhile, Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Kamal Prasad-Bisesau says her country stands by Washington's actions, sparking debate within CARICOM. That's your breakfast or news report. Stay tuned for more updates throughout the day. And remember, you can find these and other stories online.
Cayman, are you ready? Flashpoint Media proudly presents Cayman's Got Talent, the ultimate showcase of our island's best voices, performers, and rising stars. From breathtaking vocals to inspiring performances, these local talents will leave you amazed. And it all builds up to the grand finale, Point of Praise Gospel Extravaganza, on Saturday, October 25, 2025. It's a night of powerful worship, soul-stirring music, and community spirit, with part proceeds going to loud, silent causes, supporting caregivers and families of individuals living with mental health challenges right here in the Cayman Islands. Cayman's Got Talent, more than just a competition, it's a celebration of faith, hope, and the incredible gifts within our community. Your calendars, invite your friends, and be part of the movement. For more details, follow Flashpoint Media on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and tune in at www.flashpointmedia.ky. Flashpoint Talent meets purpose.
When the world quiets down and the noise of the day fades away, that's when the real conversations begin. The ones we hide, the ones we fear, the ones that need to be heard. Conversations After Dark with Mario, where the silence ends and truth begins. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m., Mario takes you on a journey through the real, raw, and rarely spoken truths that shape our lives. From personal battles to family struggles, community wounds to silent traumas. No topic is too taboo, no story too deep. It's not just talk, it's healing. This is a space where shame is shattered, silence is broken, and truth finally speaks. Conversations After Dark with Mario, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. only on Flashpoint Radio, www.flashpointmedia.ky. Stay up, speak up, heal forward.
I'm Audley Scott, and you're listening to Flashpoint Radio, Rise and Shine, your morning boost of inspiration, news, and fun. With Mikey G, Lady Elise, and Coraleekaen, the unmistakable combination, synergized to navigate.
Of course, we said news is brought to us by Asai Ultrasound for all your ultrasound needs right here in the Grand K. Is indeed another Wellness Wednesday with a difference. Pulmonary embolism. And that's our topic for this morning's experience. Of course, news has been very active and so much happening around our world and within the Grand Cayman Islands. You know, if we stop to think about it, Lady Elise, we get scared to go outside sometimes when we hear some of those newscasts, some of those stories that comes out to us each morning. But, we have to be, one of those things, optimistic about the fact that we have gotten this far for so long. It's possible we can get further going on. Of course, if you know how to make a change, do so. Can't continue the same way all the time.
Yeah, man. I want to thank our listeners and viewers for tuning into the breakfast hour this morning. Remember, there are so many things happening. Our Flash Family Trivia comes up. Our Cayman Got Talent. And it does. Cayman has got a lot of talent. And of course, we want to thank you for tuning in to the breakfast hour. Join us here every single morning, Monday to Friday, without fail, www.flashpointmedia.ky, where we bring you devotionals, news, more, what's happening today, and the rest of the world here in Cayman and everywhere else. Thank you so much. I am Lady Elise, and of course, I am keeping Mikey G's company on the breakfast hour.
Of course, remember, guys, like, share, and subscribe. And if you hit the notification bell, hit it, because if you do that, every time one of these programs comes up, you get it first. Of course, continue to enjoy Flashpoint Radio on our web radio on www.flashpointmedia.ky, right here in the Grand Cayman Islands and the rest of the world. Have yourself a great day, guys. Catch you tomorrow morning, same time, same place, where we do it all over again for you.
It's like we're running in circles, going around every day, getting stuck in the hurdles of yesterday. Don't you wanna go further, away from the fray? Let's not get stuck in our worries, we'll make our own way. Won't you come outside where the sunflowers bloom? Breathe in the air, look up to the moon. I'll meet you outside, away from the crowd. Just you and me together, we'll all sing better outside. Just us in the sky.
We use the internet to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ, transforming lives, renewing hearts 24/7, 7 days a week. Internet radio in a class by itself. We're flashing the gospel around the world as a witness. And someone will say, you know what? I heard it on Flashpoint Radio, and my life has been changed. Flashpoint in a class by itself.